Hey there, it's Leona. Welcome to Zen Mindfulness Shodo. Today, we are going to practice Shodo meditation while focusing on the Hiragana character for Se. So, let's begin our beautiful journey together. When you write a character, imagine a square about the size of the character that you are going to write like this. First, I'm going to write it. Then I'm going to explain the points and tips for writing the character beautifully in detail. I will explain in detail. The first stroke starts from a point slightly to the left of the middle of the left half of the middle horizontal line. This stroke is curving up. It moves upward to the right until the middle vertical line is in the middle of the stroke. From the ending point of the first stroke, the pen moves upward to the left. With this kind of movement, the starting point of the second stroke is a bit higher than the center point of the top right square. It starts at around the middle point between the middle vertical line and the end point of the first stroke. This stroke is slightly curving to the right, not extremely, just a slight rightward curve. It moves down until the first stroke is in the middle of the stroke. This stroke can be written parallel to the middle vertical line, like this. Or you can write it with a slight rightward slant like this. Either way is fine. At the end point of the second stroke, it checks upward to the left, toward the start point of the third stroke, bringing the pen in the direction you sent it. The third stroke starts at a slightly lower height than the start point of the second stroke, and at around the middle point between the beginning point of the first stroke and the middle vertical line. This one is going through a point, a bit to the right of the middle point between the starting point of the first stroke and the middle vertical line. But if you start from a point where the middle vertical line is in the middle between the two vertical lines, the overall balance of the character will look good. The third stroke goes down at an angle parallel to the second stroke, then gradually curves to the right after passing the lowest point of the second stroke. It moves to the right until a point a bit to the right of the second stroke, but to the left of the end point of the first stroke. This horizontal part moves to the right, parallel to the middle horizontal line, while slightly curving down. For example, regarding the second stroke, some people make it with the portion above the first stroke much longer than the portion below like this. In my personal opinion, having the portions above and below the first stroke be about equal lengths looks more balanced. Conversely, some write it with the portion above the first stroke shorter and the portion below longer like this. The first example of the part above the first stroke being a bit longer than the part below it is acceptable. But personally, I feel the bottom example looks a bit ugly. However, this is just my personal opinion, so you can write it in a way in which you feel satisfied. Also, the starting points of the second and third strokes can be reversed, with the start point of the third stroke higher than that of the second stroke, like this. But doing it this way makes the third stroke feel too much, and heavy relative to the second, with the balance feeling tilted too far to the left side. There are also people who start both at about the same height, which has a bit of a stiff, typographic kind of feel to it. Calligraphy is about personal sensibilities though, so ultimately the goal is to be able to write characters you personally like and are satisfied with. So feel free to use whatever line shapes you prefer. But explaining the differences results in something like this. Finally, regarding the horizontal portion of the third stroke, Some may write it slanted downward to the right, like this, instead of flat, or conversely slanted upward to the right. But I think keeping this final horizontal portion flat makes the overall character look more stable. As for the height, positioning it so the space above the start point of the second stroke and the space below the lowest point is about equal, since the first stroke originally moved to the right until the middle vertical line was in the middle of the stroke. These spaces start out as similar spaces as well. Doing this will place this character roughly in the center of the square box, giving good balance and a neat appearance. How about practicing while keeping these points in mind? The key points for writing hiragana characters, as explained in the video, are concisely summarized in this book in a similar manner. The book allows you 3 pages to practice each character. It can be purchased on Amazon. See the link in the description. I'm gonna practice 1 page of this workbook this time, but you're welcome to practice as much as you want. If you're practicing with a pen, I recommend that you place a few pieces of paper under the page that you're writing on, so that the ink doesn't bleed onto the page under it. Alright, let's get started.